reading One Piece for the first time, and I just finished Marineford. This is the moment a lot of you guys have been waiting for, and holy peak. Let's talk about it. I truly don't even know where to begin. For those of you unfamiliar with this process, I literally finish reading the chapter and then I'm here giving you my thoughts. So I'm sure I'll have more, articulate, consolidated thoughts the more time I spend with this story processing it, but just immediately one of the best arcs in One Piece. And I'm kind of combining it at the start of Sabaody to now, because even though they're different arcs, we got Amazon Lily in there, we got Impel Down. This feels like kind of one continuous mega arc, as it were. And it was just so good. So this is something I've mentioned in my previous arc reviews already, but it really feels like we've arrived on the stage of One Piece. Like, this is where the story begins. This is where kind of everything that Oda has been building reaches that boiling point. And like Whitebeard kind of exclaims at the end of this arc, like, the next era is here. He is passing the torch. And like, that's what all of this is culminating in. And it was all handled so well. I have liked One Piece from the very beginning, but I can definitely understand why people say, like, oh, just get to Marineford. Like, I don't think that's true. Again, like Jaya randomly is one of my favorite arcs so far in One Piece, and I've found things to love and enjoy every step of the way. But for sure here, it really shines. Like, everything Oda has been building toward really hits that fever pitch, and I'm just so excited to see where the story goes from here. Again, I'm recording this after having just finished, I think it was chapter like 579, 580, like whatever chapter it says the Marineford arc ends on. So I literally have no idea what happens immediately following Ace's death. And the crew's incredible escape from Marineford. And first and foremost, let's get the elephant in the room here. I knew Ace died. That was unfortunately the biggest spoiler I had spoiled for me coming into my One Piece journey. Pretty much aside from Ace's death, though, I haven't had really anything spoiled. Besides from like really random stuff. Like, obviously I knew who some of the Straw Hats were going to be before they actually became crew members. But beyond that, this was the biggest spoiler. And while I have to admit, if I hadn't have known that, this moment would have been just insane, right? Because one of my biggest criticisms of One Piece so far is all of the fake out deaths. So had I not known that Ace died, I think in some piece of my mind I would have assumed, yeah, they're going to save Ace, they're all going to get away. Like, maybe there would be some casualties with kind of these background characters, or like the 5 million characters that were introduced amongst this arc. Like, there were so many different pirates and marines, and this was like an Avengers level One Piece arc, right? So, sure, maybe we would have had some deaths there, but I just want to know what my like true visceral reaction would have been had I not known Ace was going to die and Oda hit me with that. So I loved it even still, but part of me is like, man, what would that have felt like if I truly hadn't have known? Because I don't think I would have seen it coming, given, what happened with Pell and virtually every other highly emotional death moment that was then almost immediately reversed, right? But again, still fantastic. Where to even begin again here? We're going full ramble mode, but Ace, okay, I knew he was Luffy's brother. I did not understand actually like the family tree, so finding out that he was actually Roger's son and he's not technically Luffy's brother, not insofar as they don't share the same parents, but they are brothers. Like, they had some sort of connection, and we got like brief flashbacks of that. Basically Roger asking Garp to take care of his grandson, which we know that he does. But both Ace and Luffy knew the truth. They both knew that Roger was actually his father. And I actually love that. Like, so it worked as an amazing reveal for me and for like the world at whole, but like the main characters already knew and it wasn't that big of a deal to them. Like Luffy didn't even care that Ace's dad was the king of the pirates. You know what I mean? And I just think there's so much like beauty woven into the character dynamics revealed in these moments here. And Ace, just wanting to have a reason to live, because, being told that, he was a disgrace, he shouldn't be alive, and especially seeing the reaction to why he had to be hidden. And I might be bridging into other points I want to talk about, but like, the Marines are straight up evil, man. And again, the people that say One Piece isn't political, truly baffles me. It shouldn't, though. I know media literacy is dead in our world these days, but like insane just how much corruption and straight up evil was on stage for the Marines in this arc. Because just because he was related to Roger, they went and killed every pregnant woman, like basically anywhere that Roger had been. And they killed all of the kids that were of a certain age where they could have even just conceivably been Roger's child. That is evil of the highest degree. And it obviously had an imprint on his whole life. You know, Ace kind of looking for that purpose and longing and finding that in Luffy, finding that in ultimately Whitebeard. And I don't want to get too off topic here. We're going to talk about Whitebeard, but wow, man, just, yeah, Marines, disgusting. And that was on full display this arc, including them also like cutting off the cameras so the world wouldn't see what they were about to do. We have this kind of like one redemptive moment with Kobe kind of standing up and him recognizing it. And so that makes me wonder, will Kobe kind of be this instrument of change in the Marines, maybe kind of root out some of the corruption from the inside? But I don't know if I have my high hopes for that, because Garp similarly should have done something a long time ago. And let's just talk about Garp. I gave him a little bit of crap in I think my Impel Down video saying like, hey, free your grandson from this horrific prison, and he didn't. And I was going to be really mad at Garp if he did nothing in this arc. And he kind of didn't, but he did save himself a little bit. In that confrontation with Luffy, he obviously kind of lets Luffy win, you know, not insofar as like literally acting, but like he hesitates in the last moment, thinking back on the memories of Luffy and Ace, and so that allows Luffy to kind of get that good punch in. And then when he basically tells Sengoku, like, you have to hold me back or I'm gonna go kill Akainu, I can't remember his name, or I know that's his name, but I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. The fire molten fist guy. And so thank you, Garp, for showing some emotion and compassion for your family, okay? So I'm interested to see what this means for Garp moving forward. I mean, clearly he's connected to this very troublesome family in Ace and Luffy. You know, some people might think that he did let Luffy punch him and get on him. Some people might be mad that he was going to go attack Akainu. So I'm wondering, like, will he still be a Marine? Will he get demoted? Like, maybe this will be a pivotal moment for him to kind of recognize the own corruption within his ranks, and maybe he will do something about it. Like, maybe it won't have to be Kobe. I think it will have to be Kobe, because this is very much a story of, like, passing of the torch, new era, next generation. But maybe he can instill some of those things in Kobe. So, like, we're giving Garp a little bit of credit, but not much. Like, kind of too little too late. Like, why? Like, were you going to let Ace just get executed right in front of you? Or, like, were you going to do something? Like, I guess we'll never know, but, you know, just, I'm expecting a little more from you here, bro. Whitebeard. Come on, dude. The man Garp should have been, okay? What an incredible character. You just fall in love with this guy in, like, a handful of pages, right? Because we've seen him before this arc, but only very briefly in that, like, quick meeting with Shanks, right? Such a cool character, such a cool guy, so powerful. The way he just stood on business, no scars on his back, and died standing up, okay? What a freaking goat. I understand why I hear about this guy all of the time. Like, it makes sense now. And also putting it to Blackbeard in that moment, so good. We'll talk more about Blackbeard in a second, though. But Whitebeard, I love this character. Again, kind of a nice little parallel to Garp, because he's not actually blood related to Ace. And I mean, I guess Garp isn't either, but Garp kind of being like this father figure to Ace. And not really being there for him, whereas Whitebeard became Ace's true father. And obviously we have Roger kind of playing a role in here as well. Like, again, this was all so well done with, like, just tying all these things together narratively and generationally, which, again, that's like what One Piece is about, right? The passing down of these wills, the next generation, the bright spark of a younger generation, hopefully burning away the corruption of the old. I go wax poetic for forever here, but to get us back on page here, Whitebeard, he didn't even really want to be Pirate King. Or he did. Maybe it's not fair of me to say, but that wasn't his dream, right? His dream was just to have a family. And it's like, oh God, it's so good. It makes sense why he calls all of his people kids and why Ace looks up to him so much. And like Whitebeard, again, I don't know that much about him, but he seems to be like an actual good guy. And that is just such a great juxtaposition with the Marines as they were presented in this arc. Again, we saw that they went out and literally hunted innocent women and children, pregnant women, unborn children, and set them to be executed just to get rid of Roger's bloodline, right? Whereas we have Whitebeard, Roger's greatest rival, literally adopt that kid's son. Who do you think's on the right side of history here, morality-wise, right? The evil pirate or the courageous Marines? Which one's killing the babies, okay? And it was such a great parallel. I loved it so much. And maybe it's not fair to call that with Whitebeard and Garp, because Garp, is at least kind of conflicted. Maybe let's call it Whitebeard and Akainu or Sengoku or, whoever is the head honcho in charge, which I don't really, I guess it's, I can't remember their name. The Gorosei, I guess. But yeah, the corruption is just crazy and it keeps getting battered over our heads with it. But Whitebeard was so good, man. And just this entire arc was full of so many just great moments. Not only clearly Whitebeard himself, but everyone that pulled up to save Ace. There are far too many characters for me to even try to potentially shout out here. But Marco was great. Oars was great. And just seeing all of these characters, and I talked about this in Impel Down, from the past re-showing up here and being present in this moment. Again, Avengers level. Now, I want to segue this into talking about Luffy, because talking about all of the great moments, he was at the center of a bunch of them. And specifically in reference to Whitebeard, just their dynamic. And, this young upstart rookie who's not even the highest bounty amongst his class. And on that note, what the hell has Kid done, okay? I hope we find out in some flashbacks to find out why his bounty is higher than Luffy's. And yes, I understand that not everyone knows what Luffy has done, so his bounty isn't necessarily an accurate reflection of his worth, per se. But still, okay, I'm going to need some impressive feats from Kid. And certainly after this, when word gets out about Impel Down, when word gets out about Thriller Bark, if it does, and then, of course, Marineford, I'm assuming Luffy's bounty is going to skyrocket. Double, triple, quadruple, 10x. I really don't know, what some of the craziest bounties in the world are, but, my boy is making a name for himself, and I love it. Luffy is infectious, and one of my highest praises for him all throughout One Piece has been his EQ. Everyone makes fun of Luffy, he's an idiot, but he's actually extremely intelligent when it comes to EQ. Knowing and recognizing someone's dream and immediately realizing that this person should be on my crew. But Mihawk actually pointed this out in this arc, and it made me so happy. He was like, okay, it's not Haki. It's not Devil Fruit. This kid's most terrifying power is his ability to make allies anywhere he goes. And I agree. That is certainly one of the things at the heart of One Piece. And I can clearly see where it's going once we reach the end of this story, because he is quite literally up against the world, right? This corruption, the world leaders that are in power, they have their hand over everything. How could one kid even hope to topple that empire, right? When we see this literal war in this arc, not being able to do anything about it. We have all of the heaviest hitters gathered here and they still couldn't topple the Marines, right? So how's this young kid gonna do it? And he's gonna do it by slowly cracking the foundation of this world, by traveling island to island, making these allies, saving these people, and showing them that there's another way. Pirates obviously have a bad rap with the majority of people, but then they meet Luffy, they meet Zoro, they meet Robin, Nami, they're like, wait, there's a pirate helping us? What's going on here? So I can't wait to see the ultimate war arc or whatever it's going to be. And we're going to see all of these different allies, all of these different characters, maybe not even present on the ocean, on the battlefield, but at least cutting to them in the different parts of the world, cheering him on, ready for the change that he represents. And it's just so good. So we kind of got a microcosm of that within this arc, and dating back to Impel Down and Amazon Lily, just the way that a man who has no crew, a man who is literally at his lowest point after being absolutely decimated by Kuma, shunted off to various parts of the world, not giving up, and basically assembling a new crew, not literally, but just amongst the rogue gallery that he encounters, inspired and motivated by his quest to save his brother. It was just so good, and so many aura moments. And so all that to circle us back around to Whitebeard. Just Whitebeard, having known of him, obviously, because I'm sure Ace talked about it, recognizing the straw hat and realizing who he was, and then just immediately like recognizing his moxie. Like Luffy just pulling up right next to Whitebeard, but it's like, well, he's just talking to Whitebeard, and Whitebeard just like acknowledges him. And like it happens at 2 or 3 different points in the arc, ultimately culminating in his amazing moment of using Haki to prevent Ace's execution. And everyone's like, oh my god, this kid has Conqueror's Haki, which again, that's a concept that hasn't really been explained, but clearly it's rare. It seems like it might be attached to the Will of D. I don't know if that's something I'm supposed to be like super connecting or not, but I'm pretty sure Ace has the D middle initial, and he even seems surprised. So it doesn't necessarily seem like Ace has that type of Conqueror's Haki. I don't know, but so good. And Whitebeard being like, everyone follow him. Like, just the prestige this kid is getting, and the way that culminated in after Ace was killed, like everyone working together to save Luffy, because they realized like the Marines want him dead because he is a threat. He's got so much potential. We weren't able to save Ace. We will save him. And speaking of these allies Luffy has picked up along the way, one of the most intriguing to me is Crocodile, because we know he initially kind of joined Luffy coming from Impel Down because he wanted to take out Whitebeard, right? But then we know that he does try to attack Whitebeard, and Luffy freaking blocks it and defends Whitebeard, and that's one of the mini aura moments I was just talking about. But we know that after that, he teams up with Luffy and Whitebeard in a tenuous way, right? And so what caused that change of heart? And it could simply be, you know, like not wanting to help the Marines, but I think something deeper is happening there, and it's got me so curious. Like, because Crocodile ends up saving Luffy, like, at least one other time, and maybe like an additional time after that moment. So like Crocodile was invested in making sure that kid got away, and it's like, okay, what changed here? So very curious about like what Crocodile wants right now at this point in the story. Next up, I got to talk about Kuma, because you know this is a character I was just introduced to in the previous couple of arcs, and I've been very curious about him because he's a warlord of the sea, and yet he, on 2 occasions, has helped the Straw Hats, been like ordered to execute them or bring them in, and at Thriller Bark just lets them go, and then at Sabaody, again, lets them go, but kind of by shunting them all off to various points of the earth. So like, it's like, what's happening there? What is he disobeying his orders for? And then we find out that when he shunts Luffy away, he's like, this is goodbye, like we'll never see each other again. But then we clearly see him again, but he's different. He's robotic. And at first I thought he was just another one of the pacifistas, but no, come to find out it is the true him. It's the one that wields the devil fruit paw power, but he's different. And Ivankov even recognizes Kuma and is like, what, Kuma, you don't recognize me? Like, what's going on? And clearly they have some sort of history. We know that Ivankov also has a history with Luffy's father, Dragon the Great Revolutionary. And considering Ivankov considered Kuma at least somewhat of an ally, it makes you think, okay, Kuma at least used to be against the government, and now he's working for them. And we find out, I forget who tells us, but somebody tells us like, oh yeah, Kuma, he's gone. Just a couple of days ago, he had his memory completely destroyed. Like, he is now just fully a weapon of the government. And that is tragic. And it makes me wonder what happened here. Because again, we saw that kind of compassion and perhaps reluctance to be an arm of the government in these previous arcs where he's helping the Straw Hats, but now that's gone. And that's why he told Luffy, like, well, I'll never see you again, because he must have known that he was going to lose the last pieces of himself. And so now this man, again, who at least used to be friends with Dragon and Ivankov, I don't know if it's fair to call him, you know, an active revolutionary or not, but has completely flipped sides. So what happened? How did they make him do this? How did they make him do this to the extent where he literally completely loses himself, right? Tragedy must have struck, and I'm curious what it is. One thing I'm wondering, though, is that we see that the real Kuma is carrying this Bible. Like when we were introduced to the pacifistas in the previous arcs, and we see them here in Marineford, they're not carrying Bibles, right? So I was like, okay, that's a good way to figure out which one's the real one. So even though this one has seemingly lost all his memories and stuff, I noticed he was still carrying the Bible. So part of me wondered, okay, does that speak to there maybe still being a piece of him in there that's retaining that like habit? Because if you were really just like a mindless weapon of the government, what purpose would there be to carry around a religious text still? And I'm not saying there couldn't be an answer. Maybe there is, but that gave me hope that, okay, maybe, maybe we could still get through to him somehow. I think that Doflamingo's line really encapsulates kind of the heart of this arc, but really just like the heart of kind of one of the messages Oda is portraying here, that like, and I'm going to butcher it, but like, kids that have only known war versus kids that have only known peace are going to view justice in two different ways. And basically, whoever wins defines what justice is. And that's kind of why we're in this state of the world that we're in right now, because the Gorosei, the admirals, or whoever it may be, has kind of set the stage for what's right and what's wrong. And again, we see what that justice is. It's killing unborn children and their mothers. It's turning off the cameras whenever they don't want the world to know what they're truly up to. And Doflamingo recognizes that, and he's basically like, at least what I took from this was he's going to just play his cards right to end up on whatever team actually does win in this case. So, I don't know if it's fair to say the Marines won. I guess they did. So he's still kind of remaining on that side as a warlord of the sea. But I think he would have flipped if he thought the tide was turning the other way, and would have helped Whitebeard and the others potentially. But yeah, like that's the heart of what's going on here. Like, justice is whoever is in power defines it, right? So I've already talked about it, so we won't retread into it, but I'm just excited to see what Luffy and this next generation can do to kind of hopefully burn that away and build something new. To that end, I love the way that Whitebeard basically used his last words to serve as a rallying cry. The Marines thought they were getting this huge win. And, in a lot of ways they are, because one of the most powerful people in the world has now been wiped out, and Roger's son has now been wiped out. But what could have been just a very dreadful, depressing moment for pirates and revolutionaries instead became this rallying cry, because he reiterates again, the One Piece is real. The next generation is here. This next era, I'm handing off the torch for you. It's definitely like an inciting moment that I think will start a fire in a lot of people's chests. And then finally, man, just what is going on with Blackbeard? Like, this man is an enigma and a rogue. He is the anti-Luffy, right? He's really just kind of doing his own thing, his own way, but it's like evil instead of hopeful and good. We find out that he broke into Impel Down to basically free out a bunch of really strong people, and that's the only reason he became a warlord of the sea. So he's turning his back on the world government now, just using them. And we see that he somehow steals Whitebeard's devil fruit, which means he now has two, which was previously thought to be impossible. But there was some comment about Blackbeard having a weird physiology, a weird composition. I can't remember who said it. It was probably somebody on Whitebeard's crew that was familiar with him. That was just like, yeah, he's weird. So, okay, he's weird. He can have two devil fruits. So he's got this crazy black hole enigma, and now he's got this weird earthquake power. I didn't fully understand what Whitebeard could do, but clearly he was insanely broken, right? And so now this man has two, including one devil fruit, which basically cancels out others. So yeah, Luffy's getting himself a very formidable antagonist building up here, and he wants to be the Pirate King too. Like, we know that much at least, but like, I wonder why. Like, we know Luffy just wants to be the freest man on the sea, which I love that. I think this is from a previous arc. I don't know if I commented on it or not, but I think it was Shaki or somebody commenting about like what Luffy would do with like that power or be in control, and he's like, no, I don't want to be in control. Pirate King is the freest man on the sea. So I'm assuming to kind of like parallel that, maybe he wants complete control, just in a different flavor compared to the world government. But very curious what's going on with him. How did he even steal a devil fruit? 'Cause they put that sheet over so that nobody would know what was going on. So yeah, curious what his grand plans are. And then finally, we got to talk about Shanks. He was like the one major player that I was surprised wasn't at this event, right? But then he pulled up and basically put an end to everything. And I tweeted this out, or I mentioned it in the Discord when I first read this. I was like, damn, Shanks have more motion than I realized, because like everyone kind of listened to him. And I know he's an emperor of the sea, but like so was Whitebeard, right? So, damn, how strong is Shanks? Like, Whitebeard was said to be the most powerful, but is Shanks actually the most powerful? Like, why does he have this much pull? Obviously with pirates would make sense, but also with Marines. And on top of that, why did he only pull up now? They made some comment about him, like, fighting Kaido, so, like, he only just got here, but they still seem surprised on just how fast he got here. So, like, was it because he was trying to get here and just this is as soon as he could make it? Or did he intentionally kind of not show up until things had already played out a little bit. I don't know. I'm sure he wouldn't like purposely like have let Ace or potentially Luffy die, but who knows? I do like the parallel of him saving Kobe, just like he saved Luffy. So I'm interested to see kind of what journey Kobe goes on from here. Anyways, this was an incredible arc. It's been an incredible string of arcs, and we have really just truly set the stage. The chess pieces are there. The board was just shook up a little bit, and now it's like, okay, what's this next generation gonna do? And specifically, Luffy, like where we leave him this arc, he was already at his lowest before Ace died, right? Because he got, again, decimated. His crew completely split up. And now he's just been on this insanely hectic journey trying to make it to this prison, gets there, doesn't get to his brother in time, then has to create this hazy, hectic journey to Marineford, gets there, isn't able to save his brother. And in fact, his brother has to trade his life to save Luffy's. So Luffy is broken, like he must be. And I'm just wondering, like, well, how does he come back from this? Like, he's surrounded by a bunch of people right now who are trying to help him and save him, but it's none of his actual crew. They're still scattered amongst the corners of the world, right? So I just, one of the reasons I had to make this video immediately is so that I can keep reading and find out what happens. But like, you know, once you break someone down to their lowest, like that's when he can be reborn and come back even stronger. So I can't wait to see like where this journey goes next for him. But I'm worried for our boy. Like, I think this has broken him on a spiritual level, but I have no doubt that he will come back from it. I'm just interested to see how that happens. And also, I commented on this a little bit, but our boy's got Conqueror's Haki. He's got that Will of D. Like, I want to explore more of what that means and what's going on there. And there was, I think it was Whitebeard, somebody commented a little bit on the Will of D and how this is something that is like inherited and like, you know, which we knew, but like a little bit more clarity was placed upon it. So it's like, yeah, okay, this is a thing that at least some people have knowledge on, and they're aware that it's like inherited wills. And I think Roger was even mentioned. So it's like, you're not the one Roger was waiting for, but maybe like Luffy is or something. And so like, what do you mean waiting for? Like, he's dead, right? So many questions. But your boy's been yapping a lot. This has been our longest one since returning to One Piece. I think we're probably getting close to 30 minutes. But anyways, if you made it this far, really appreciate it. And especially if you made it this far, consider doing the typical stuff, liking the video, sharing it, commenting. You know, when I talk about One Piece, I usually get pretty restricted on the algorithm because my normal followers won't engage with it. And so they're like, okay, people must not like this, and they won't send it out further. And it's because my main audience is JJK or Hunter x Hunter, right? So I want to find my One Piece people. So if this is you, do me a favor, do all the algorithm things. I'd really appreciate it. But really, just I appreciate you for making it this far in the video. So thank you so much.